Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, I'm Jason, and welcome back to Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. We are grateful today. We got a great guest. I'm looking forward to this one. We got the wonderful Amy Koford. Amy, how are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Oh, blessed, Amy, blessed, and we're excited to have you here. So,
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
awesome, awesome. Let's get started right away. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Amy Koford. I'm a hypnotist, and my stage name is Amy the Happy Hypnotist. There's a number of reasons for that. Sometimes people ask about that. As a clinical hypnotist, I help people with depression and anxiety a lot. That's most of my clients. The other thing is that I love to be happy. So I'm Amy the Happy Hypnotist. I help people be happy, and I love to be happy.
Amy, it sounds like you've been very happy. I was talking to you earlier. You told me you have 5 kids. Boy, that ought to keep you busy.
It has. Sadly, 3 of them are grown and moved on, so I only have 2 at home that are left, but during the holidays, they come back, and it's wonderful. I love having 5 kids. I'm a people person, and so it's just been a lot of fun. It was fun raising 5. It was crazy busy, but it was so much fun, and I love my kids. They're my everything.
Awesome, awesome. So, Amy, you're the happy hypnotist and you do stage work. Where did this all come about? How did it get started? Talk to us.
Well, it actually started in Australia. I met Rich Guzzi, who was there. We were both at a hypnosis conference, and he said, "You need to do stage shows." Now, when I became a hypnotist several years ago, I just thought that I would do in office sessions, one after another, day after day, right? Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, back to back sessions in my office. And didn't quite understand that there was a whole world of what you can do with hypnotism back then. So anyway, Rich said you need to learn stage. And so I got working with him just a couple months later. This was all during COVID. So he had several online classes, and then I learned how to do that. By the time it was 2021 and people were gathering more, I knew how to do stage shows. So I started doing them then. These days, I'm doing a lot more speaking. And I love doing public speaking because I actually incorporate the shows into the speeches. So people that hire me to do speeches I've done a few corporate events lately. I've done a few online. When I do corporate events, I give them that option. I'll say, okay, so I can give you amazing content about stress reduction or whatever it is that your office needs. And if you want to have fun, we can do that too. And so a lot of people have opted to have fun. So what I do is part speech, and then after the speech part of it, I'll bring people up on the stage, hypnotize them, then get them to do funny things. The audience is laughing hysterically. It's a lot of fun. So I also do just straight hypnosis shows, and those are a lot of fun.
It's
And so yeah, it's fun.
it
Yeah.
sounds like everything you do is fun.
I'm a fun-loving person.
I guess that's why you're
A
the
little
happy.
too much, I guess. I love to have fun too much. But
So,
yeah, I love it.
so let's delve into this a little bit.
Okay.
When did you first realize that, hey, I'm going to be able to help people? When was that aha moment that it was like, oh, I can do this and I'm going to be able to help people?
That is a really good question. No one on any other podcast has asked me that, and I've been on many, many podcasts this year. It's funny because when my youngest child was going into kindergarten and first grade, I said, you know what? I don't want to do human resources anymore. That's what I did before. I stayed home with my kids for a while. I had 5 kids. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a little while. I said, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. What is it that I want to do? And I said, I don't want to do human resources. I want to do something that's meaningful, that helps people. And I put it out there in the universe. And I was especially really religious at the time. These days I'm still spiritual and I believe in God completely. But anyway, so I started praying about it and I started just kind of putting it out in the universe. Help me, God, to find my thing. I want to have something really meaningful. And the next thing I knew, I was studying about hypnotism and signed up to certify as a hypnotist. And one of those moments, one of those aha moments, actually had two. One of them was one day I was in class. So it took me 3 months to certify to become a hypnotist. And one day I was in class and I sat there looking at other people around me and going, what the hell am I doing? A hypnotist? I live in Utah. No one's going to be open-minded enough to come to a hypnotist. You know what I mean? It was just one of those, what am I doing? And literally right after I was thinking that, I just felt this voice come into me that said, you are going to help a lot of people. I need you to do this. This is important. You're going to help a lot of people in really impactful, profound ways. And it was interesting because I literally was like, whoa, what was that? And I looked around, like, God was just speaking to me. And I don't have that much, you know. Some people that was one of those few times in my life that I've had that happen. And so a few months later, when I opened my practice, some of my very first clients came to me with incredibly difficult traumas from their past. One lady, one of my very first clients, had 2 daughters and a husband die at different times. And so I had to really dive into that. But the cool thing was, it's just a newbie, right? I had only been practicing for a few weeks when I had a few people with sexual abuse that when they were children, they had been sexually abused. And what I found that was so incredible is that it worked. I was a brand new hypnotist. People were coming to me with really difficult traumas from their past, and it worked. I was using what I had just learned, and it worked so well that they were referring me. And so that was my other aha moment. The first one was that moment in class where God spoke to me and said, this is important, and you're going to help people tremendously. The other was that one of my first clients, like afterwards, she said, wow, this has helped me more than years of therapy. And she was kind of crying and she was just like a light had just been turned on. And I cannot even tell you the joy that I felt that it worked and that she was feeling better. So that was my other aha moment, like, wow, this works. And I want to be the best hypnotist in the world because I want people to be able to get the results that they want from me. And so then that started me on my path of, okay, who are the best hypnotists out there? I want to learn. I want to be so good at this
Yeah.
that it's just fail proof, you know?
So you're like the Blues Brothers. You're on a mission from God. So is this the first time you felt directed in that type of a way?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I grew up very religious and where I was taught that you pray to ask for guidance from God. Now, I'm not really into that religion anymore, but I totally believe in God. In fact, I feel like my relationship with God is actually better now that I'm not constricted or limited by that religious dogma and the beliefs there, right? I have more of an open-minded, a more broad view of God, and I think it serves me better. But yeah, I was raised that you ask God for guidance.
And so do you believe now that in your work and your practice and things that you're doing, even on your stage show, that God's moving you and working through you?
Absolutely. I've seen it happen. You know, it's funny, when I first became a hypnotist, again, I wasn't one of those that always felt like I knew when God was speaking to me. So what I noticed is that I was being heavily inspired during my sessions, and I almost got mad at God, not in a bad way, but like I said, "Yeah, you'll give me all this inspiration for clients, but you've never answered my prayers this strongly, you know? Like, why are they more important than me?" You know, it was kind of in a joking way, but because I felt like there were times in my life. I went through a very difficult illness for a long time when all 5 of my kids were home. It was very difficult. I probably would have died if we wouldn't have figured out what it was. And during that time, it was a year, and I kept praying and praying, and I felt like I wasn't having my prayers answered. So again, that's why I was like, well, now I am a hypnotist and you help me inspire, you work through me, you're directing me and guiding me with these clients way more than you ever answered my prayers.
Maybe that was your answer.
I know.
So
But
it's
say, I think too that I can see answers more clearly now that I'm not so restricted by my religion. Now I can, I love God. I just feel like I have a really good relationship with God that's not limited or warped by
so it sounds
certain.
like you pray before every single one of your sessions, shows, and corporate and everything.
I do, and well, I'm probably painting a picture that I'm a lot more spiritual than I actually am. I would like to be better, but I feel like I am pretty good. Um, One thing that one hypnotist taught me that I thought was so great, I totally believe that love is the most important thing in life, hands down. There's nothing more important in life than love. Loving others, loving yourself, loving life, right? And one hypnotist taught me that when you have new clients or any clients, you look them in the eyes and you think to yourself, I love you. And I do. Like they don't know I'm doing that, but when they're sitting across from my desk before I put them in my recliner, I'll just think, I love you. And I'm finishing my book all about fear, and I put that in there too, that here's one way that we can have more love in our world. When you pass people, just think to yourself, I love you. To whoever stranger, whatever person that is. But I feel like that helps establish rapport better when I'm doing that. Like I look them right in the eyes and just think, I love you. They don't know I'm thinking that, but I think it helps establish rapport, and I think it invites God in because I believe that God is love, right? That God is all about love. He loves all his children on earth. He loves each one of us individually, and that when we love others, it's inviting God to be with us. So I think that that helps too, to get some inspiration because I want the clients to get the results that they come to me for. And so it just doesn't hurt. In my opinion, it doesn't hurt to ask God. Might
That
as well.
that's beautiful, Amy. So what's this all about fear all about? Just fear?
Okay. Well, here's what I've learned. So, like I say, I work a lot with deep, difficult traumas. I work a lot with depression and anxiety. What I've learned over the years, and here's another God moment coming up, is that fear is behind all these problems. That really, if you want to just reduce it down to its very simplest element, there is always fear because fear comes in many varieties and forms. There's basically two types of fear, but under that, there's numerous types of fear. The two basic types of fear are necessary fear, right? We all know what necessary fear is, right? When something happens, you need that fear to keep you alive, to do what you've got to do, that fight or flight. Unnecessary fear is the other type. And unnecessary fear is all the rest, right? All the fear that holds us back, that causes us suffering. And so my book is all about unnecessary fear, what it is and how to be the boss over it instead of letting it be the boss of you.
Nice. So when can we look forward to the release?
Uh, I would say in the next few months. I'm so close to being done. I have a publisher. I'm going to finish it in the next week or two, and then it will go off to the publisher. And from there, it only takes about 6 weeks to 2 months. So it's called Hardwired to Rise, and meaning that we are hardwired to rise up to fear, to face it and be the boss of us.
Nice. It sounds
So
empowering.
it is. I'm excited about it.
Now, speaking of empowering, let's talk about you. You got this going on. You got the corporate shows, you got your comedy shows, your stage shows, you got your practice where you're working with individuals. You got all this going on. Who are your mentors?
Oh my goodness. I've had a few over the years. Tom Nicoli for a little while in the beginning, and then Rich Guzzi for a while, and Marshall Silver. And this summer, I had a fun experience. I've always loved Paul McKenna. He's one of my favorites. And he is the first hypnotist I ever heard of back in 2009. I saw one of his books at Barnes and Noble, and I bought it and I really liked it. And so that was my first time that I had ever really known of a hypnotist. And so I love his books. I love him. And this summer I got to go train in person with him in London and meet him. So that was a dream come true. I love Paul. And so I've trained with him, with Marshall, I've been to numerous conferences. Been to hypnosis conferences in Australia, London, all over the country. So yeah, I've learned from a lot of different hypnotists.
It sounds like you've had a lot for hypnosis. Let's go beyond hypnosis now.
Okay.
What about before that? Who were your mentors then growing up? Who's been like really made that impact on you? Makes you who you are, not just a hypnotist. Who is Amy?
That's a great question. Well, I had a kind of a unique upbringing. I was raised in heavily Mormon Utah as a Mormon, and really no complaints. Yes, it's a pretty narrow-minded way to grow up, but it was happy too. I had really good parents, and but as a woman growing up in Mormon Utah, you are raised in a certain limiting way, right? That women are only good to be wives and mothers, and it's kind of hard to explain, and it might be really hard for some people out there to understand what that's like. Now, I was lucky in that my mom was a little more open-minded, and I had some older sisters that broke out of that. They had careers. They didn't care what the leaders of the church said. They still had careers anyway. And so I was lucky that way, that I had some good examples. My mom was like, you know what? Some people just need to have their own thing besides raising kids and being wives. They need to have their own thing. So I was lucky that way. So that's how I was raised. And my mentors had a lot. My mom was a good example. And I bring up my mom a couple of times in my book, how she was one that taught me a really good example about fear and not letting fear pull you down or affect you. And so that helped. So I was kind of fearless. I think that was kind of my personality. Yes, of course I have some fears. Everyone on the planet does, right? There's some fears that I have, but I was overall kind of a courageous person. And I'm still pretty courageous. This summer I went swimming with sharks without a cage.
Nice.
And some people out there do that. For me, that was a big deal. And so, yeah, I had mentors and just kind of my personality. I was just kind of born that way too. Uh, and it showed, right? In high school, I was a cheerleader and I was a kind of outgoing. And then I did a lot. I was actually a Mormon missionary. I don't know if have you seen Heretic?
Yes.
Yeah, I was a Mormon missionary when I was 21.
Well, thank
And
God you didn't end up in somebody's basement.
that's an interesting film. I was watching very carefully to see how they portrayed it. And both of those actresses that play the Mormon missionaries, they were both raised Mormon too. And they're out now too, but it helps. When you're raised that way, you just get it. You know how it is. And so I was impressed. They had it pretty good, actually. The doctrine that comes up, what it's like to be a sister missionary. Yeah, it came up. And so yeah, I you have to be fearless to be a sister missionary. You're knocking on strangers' doors, you're going into people's houses, you're being persecuted, right? People are being mean to you. They're telling you to get the hell off their property and all this stuff. There's a lot there. You have to be brave to be a Mormon missionary.
And
I
and
got
now you're
chased
knocking
by
on
dogs.
and now you're knocking on subliminal doors.
Exactly. So I hope that that helps you understand how I am and kind of breaking out of that and going, there's more to life than that limiting beliefs. But it's still a part of me, and I keep the good from that Mormon upbringing. There was good. It wasn't all silly. There was a lot of good to it. But then I've also had to go through the process of letting go what just doesn't work for me.
Right. So
So
now we're talking about this and we're talking about, breaking through walls and stuff like that. What's your plans now? What have you planned? Where do you plan to be in 10 years? Let's talk about that. What are your goals?
I know exactly what they are. I want to do more in-person events that I host, that I facilitate. uh, where people come to me. We have like a 2-day event where their life changes for the better. And I have so much amazing content from all of these conferences I've been to, right? I've done thousands and thousands of in person sessions in my office over the years. And so I just have so much great stuff. So I really need to do events. It's just one of those things now. There's a wall I have to break through. It's like that initial, oh, it's so time consuming. I got to do this. I just got to say, who cares? Just do the events. I want to do way more speaking. So my goal is to do at least a minimum of 8 speeches a month. Yeah, so that's my goal there. I want to do one event a month, 8 speeches a month. And I have an online hypnosis program that's really amazing. It's called Optimized Greatness. And anyone around the world can do it. You just come on weekly. I do a over the internet online session, or they can do it on video. And I'm in person, Q&A and any support that they need. And it's just several sessions of all the best stuff
Nice.
so
Wonderful.
that they come out of it just an amazing, optimized person.
So how do they get a hold of you? What give us your connection so our viewers can get in touch with you, Amy.
Okay, amykoford.com. That's amykoford.com. To book me as a speaker, I have bookamyk.com. But either way works. You can call me or you can email me, amykoford@gmail or amy@amykoford.com. So there's a number of ways, or you can just find me on social media. Amy the Happy Hypnotist, Amy Koford. I've got a number of social medias. On LinkedIn, I'm Amy Koford. So yeah, I have a number of social media
Nice.
profiles.
Nice. We'll post a lot of that up there so that our viewers can see. So let me ask you another question. We just talked to you about your plans for the future, but let's flip that script for a second. Let's imagine that you're here today and you're going to talk to your 16-year-old self. What words of wisdom are you going to tell them? What are you going to tell your younger self?
Mhm. The number one thing that I would tell her is that you are good enough. That is something that I struggled with my religious upbringing. And you know what? It's very common. I still live in Utah. Just for the just for the record, I did move away from Utah. I lived outside of Utah for many years. I lived in Florida, California, Oregon, and New York. I ended up back here with a job, my husband's job, and I actually love skiing now. So that makes living in Utah much better. I love skiing. It's the most fun thing to do during the winter. Anyway, so so one thing that comes up a lot in the Mormon religion is that you feel like you're not good enough. You're not good enough for God. You're not good enough for others. Like it's just so common. And now, luckily, I can help people that come to me with that because I get it. I used to be there, right? I did not love myself at all. And so that's the number one thing that I would tell myself is you are good enough. You're more than good enough. The number two thing that I would tell myself is love yourself, Amy. Love yourself. Stop looking at all the things that are not good enough or that you don't think are, this or that. Stop focusing on that and just love yourself.
Awesome.
Um, the other thing I would tell myself is to believe in myself more and just to believe in yourself, which I actually had a healthy amount of self-love, or not self-love, belief in myself, enough that I could do things as a teenager. I did put myself out there a little bit, but heaven knows I needed a lot more. It's one sad thing is that as a missionary, so when girls go out on Mormon missions, it's a year and a half. And the sad thing is that as a missionary, I learned how to hate myself even more because Mormon missions, at least in the early 90s, they were brutal. They were full of guilt and shame. You're never doing enough. And if you felt like you're doing enough, then they were going to tell you that it wasn't enough. There was so much guilt and shame and so much of that I came home after a year and a half of that just beaten down, you know. I felt like, oh my gosh, God hates me. I'm I'm just a loser, right? It was so hard. It took me years and years and years to break out of that kind of thinking. I was convinced that God didn't love me. And so I didn't love myself. And it had already been a little bit bad before the mission, but after I went on a mission, it was so bad. And I lived that way for a long time. Nowadays, that serves me with my clients. When they come to me and they don't love themselves, which by the way, most of my clients don't. When I ask them that, how much do you love yourself? I'll have them rate it from 1 to 10, with 10 meaning that they love themselves a lot. Often it's like 1, 2. Most of my clients don't love themselves, and most of my clients are very critical of themselves. No matter what religion, no matter what background they have, most people are very critical of themselves. So one of my signature speeches that I do is stop criticizing yourself and connect to your greatness. Now I have past experience with that. So it serves me. You know what I mean? Like we're all a result of our past can serve us or it can hurt us. It hurt me at first, but nowadays, all that way of living where I didn't feel good enough, where I was critical of myself, it serves me now because I've come out of it. I don't do that anymore. I love myself. But I also understand when people come to me that way, I get it. I used to be that. So it helps me to help them because I understand it.
Nice. And
Yeah.
speaking of helping you to help them and everything, you got everything going on. It sounds like you're so busy. You're writing these books. You got all this aspirations. Where's your husband fit in with this? How's he helping? What's going on with him? Is he part of it?
Well, he has his own career. He makes video games for Warner Brothers. Uh, and yeah, I mean, he'll help me in any way he can, but he's in a totally different world. He's an artist.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, I mean, when he can, he'll come and help, with shows, help video or whatever, put on the music. But otherwise, yeah, he just lets me do my thing and he does his thing. And it's just a whole different world of what I do. So he just thinks it's great, but yeah.
Amy, it's been a pleasure having you on here. It's been great traveling down your magical psyche highway. Do you have any other thing you want to add?
Absolutely. I want everyone listening to know that you are amazing. You are beautiful. You have within you just incredible greatness. You are full of love and light, and you are this amazing eternal being. You're powerful. You're just so, so much more than what you believe to be. So I want everyone out there to know that. Please know that you are more than what you think you are.
Nice. And now I got one more question for you.
Hey,
You're going to love this because it's going to wrap right into that last thing that you just said.
hey.
What are your words of wisdom for our viewers?
My words of wisdom are appreciate every moment and appreciate yourself. Be grateful for the good. When you are going through hard things in life, which we all do, you don't have to be grateful for the hard things, but look for what you can be grateful for. What is going well, right? What is good about you? What are you doing right? What are you doing well? What are the positive qualities about you? Focus on the positive, accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, as that song goes. Because that will serve you so much more than focusing on the negative and dwelling on the negative about yourself and about life. You can find it. It is so easy to find negative, isn't it? It's
Right.
so easy to find all the negative about ourselves. It is so easy to find and complain and dwell on all the negative in life. And there is a lot, but there's also a lot of beauty. There's also a lot of positive. There's love. There's goodness. There is positive in life. And when you look for it, you will find it. And there's positive about you. And when you look for it, and you dwell on that, your life is a hell of a lot better when you dwell on the positive about yourself and life.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Amy, it's been a pleasure. We certainly
Thank
enjoy
you
having
so
you on
much.
the
It's
show.
been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We certainly appreciate it. And we love traveling down your magical psyche highway. It's been great. And for our
Thank you so
viewers out there, we're so glad that you're here too. We hope you enjoyed this. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, give us a thumbs down. We don't care. We're just glad you're here. We hope you come back next week. Please subscribe, share, do whatever. Like us. We're just glad you're here. And we hope to see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.